So I decided today to do a story time about my really creepy boss. So about 3 years ago I worked at a pizza joint. It was technically my second job. My first job I worked at Aeropostale, and it was seasonal, so it only lasted I worked 4 shifts, and then they're like, okay, bye, thanks, we don't need you anymore. So my friend had originally worked here at a different location. She told me, you should apply, they're hiring, it's an easy job, it's easy pay, whatever. This boss in particular, let's call him Jose. The interview was with him, and it was a small pizza joint. There wasn't any break room or anything like that, so we just kind of awkwardly sat over by the phones. So there were people buzzing about. And it was fine. He was super friendly, and I was relatively shy, but I was still friendly. I was nice, and I didn't get any weird vibes out of it. I was alright, and 10 minutes into it, he's alright, you have the job, but between you and me, I have to pretend to interview you some more so it looks like I'm doing my job. And I was sweet deal. So I asked him, I was what kind of makeup do you guys prefer here? Am I allowed to wear makeup, everything like that? And he stopped and he thought for a second, and I was oh, he's gonna tell me I can't wear makeup. And he was kind of looking at me weird, and I was don't do that. Laughed it off. So I got the job, and he's come in on this day to get your schedule, or no, I'll call you with your training schedule so you can know when to come in to start training and everything like that. So he would mess with all the girls. It's not like he gave me any more attention than anybody else, but just dumb, immature things. He was 21, 22, 23, maybe older. Old enough to know better, that grow up a little bit, you know what I'm saying? It was maybe a mile or so away from my high school, so it was super close, and I knew 2 people that worked there. I was the 3rd one from that school that worked. Actually 4. I was the 4th one. I knew 3 people, and I was the 4th one to work there from my high school. So one of them was in English class with me, and she was telling me about oh, just don't even mind Jose. He's funny. He is what he is. He's harmless, whatever. And a few months later, I remember she was telling me about how he had tried to text her and everything, and he was why don't you ever text me back? And she's I don't want to text you back. And so I remember I was sitting in the middle of class, and it was one of those easy days, totally didn't even matter. So everybody was on their phone, including me. And he texted me, and he's hey, this is Jose, just texting you so I can put my number in your phone and save it. Yeah, so how's your day going? Whatever, I'm so glad I have your number. I was okay. Day's going good, I'm just in school. He just started asking me what's your address? And he's oh, here's mine. And so he sent me his exact address. Here's a picture of my house from Google Maps. Click on the Google Map link and you can see my exact location. It'll even give you directions. And I was okay. And he's well, what's your exact address? And I was and he could get it from the database anyway, so if it was anything work related, isn't it more professional to not so much where do you live? Because he's got to know where to send my checks to, when I get paid. He would just randomly text me all the time about, hey, what's up, how you doing? Or he'd be I'd post a picture or something, and he'd be oh, you look good. I'm I don't know how you see my pictures, we're not friends on Facebook. And I wasn't so big in Instagram at the time, and even still I don't know if he had one or not. I didn't look because I didn't care. I didn't like him. I got my sister the job because we both worked at Aeropostale, and then we both, had not been fired, not been let go, not quit. We just stopped when seasonal was over because it was only a seasonal job. I think okay, one thing I forgot to mention. One of his relatives, I don't know if she was his mom, his cousin, aunt, I don't know, but one of his relatives, his mom worked there, and she was the general manager, and he was the assistant manager. And then we had shift leaders who would just come in and they're technically managers, but they're not assistant managers. They just come in to be a manager on duty, essentially. So it was kind of awkward because he was texting me, and I was I don't really feel comfortable texting you, but I didn't really want to say anything like that. I didn't want to be rude because he was my boss. He wrote my schedule, and I couldn't really say anything to her because she was his mom, and I didn't want to be I don't want her to hate me. And I don't want her to spite me because they're related. It just seemed unprofessional to have conflict of interest. Those are the words I'm looking for. There was a conflict of interest. My sister got hired, and he would ask her all these questions about me, oh, what's Erin doing tonight? Is she at home? Do you guys live together? Are you in the same room? Those are relatively harmless questions because we're twins, so it's oh, do you guys share the same room? Do you live together? What do you do? Is she home? What's she doing? Maybe you can tell her to come in tonight and hang out with us. And he would be the closing manager, and my sister would be the closing cook. I got hired as someone who worked up front, like gave the orders to people, took the orders. I didn't cook anything, but my sister cooked. And he'd just ask her all these questions about me, and she's like, I don't really feel comfortable answering those. And like by this point, I had told everybody about it except everybody at work. So I was like, this dude's creeping hardcore, listen up. And so she was like, oh, yeah. Gave him short answers that couldn't really feed him much information or kind of fuel this thing he had going on. I remember one night he texted me. I was up for some reason, I don't remember. It was like 4 a.m. and he's like, are you awake? And I was like, yes, I'm up. What's up? Are you writing a schedule? Do you need something? And he's like, I'm so drunk right now. Oh, okay. He's like, so if I say anything inappropriate, just disregard it completely because I'm drunk out of my mind. And I was like, hold up. Like, what? And he started telling me about how he has this crush on someone at work, and he's like, can you guess who it is? And I was like, oh, hi, I bet we'll call him Joe. Like, I bet it's Joe, because Joe was kind of like the player of the pizza joint. Go out and hook up with drunk girls, how he looked, all about his car, and like, he's better than you, he's smarter than you. Everything like that, and just haha, no, but close. Around that age, which Joe was 21 at the time, and I was 18. I had just turned 18, and like I knew he was talking about me, and I even showed my friend who had like no involvement in any of this, no idea about any of it, and she's like, he has got to be talking about you. There's no way he's talking about anybody else. I have a crush on someone at work. Can you guess who it is? I'm drunk. Disregard everything I'm saying. So and I really wanted to tell the general manager. I really should have. I mean, it never got dangerous or anything like that, but I really wanted to, but I was like, I'm hesitant because she's his mom, and she would tell me all the time, like, oh, you should hang out with Jose, you should hang out, it would be fun, and he talks about you all the time. He'd ask me all the time, like, oh, you're single, or he'd like ask me about my life problems. Flashback. He told me once, we were texting once, he's like, tell me a bit about yourself, kind of like that, when you're trying to get past that awkward stage when you're talking to someone you're like, well, let's ask each other questions and we'll give answers, and like 2 truths and a lie. So he's like, let me tell you about this one time. I was 14 and my drug dealer promised me as much cocaine as I could possibly want for free, as long as I got in his car. And I'm like, hold up, first of all, let's throw some logic in here. Your cocaine dealer at 14 years old, like that's messed up alone, told you that you could have as much as you wanted of cocaine for free. That makes no sense. Do you know how expensive cocaine? I don't know how expensive cocaine is because I've never even seen cocaine in person. It doesn't make sense. Not much making sense here. And so I got into his car and he kidnapped me to California for 4 months. And I was like, what? Why are you believing this dude that you're gonna get pounds and pounds of cocaine for free? Second of all, why are you climbing into his car? And third of all, why would he kidnap you? What use could he possibly have with a 14-year-old dude? Like, what? And he's like, nothing happened, we just hung out in California. But I was held for ransom and my family had to pay money. Why would any drug dealer kidnap a 14-year-old? What use? Because then they get found out, and then they search you, and then you get arrested, and you get arrested for even longer because you're selling cocaine to kids. And you're selling cocaine, period. So there was that. Why are you telling me this? Like, I don't know if he was trying to impress me, or just trying to, like, gauge my reaction, or just, like, get attention for himself. Yeah, I know, I've never had anything like that happen to me. I've never done drugs, so I don't know. And then prom started to roll around. I never said anything to the general manager, his mom. I never said anything. She told me one day, she's like, you should go to prom with Jose. And I was like, oh, darn it, there's an age limit. Nobody can be over 20, and I would prefer to go with someone from my age group or my school, or like, I don't need a man. Like, stop. And he kept texting me, and he texts me all the time, every time at 4 a.m, I'm so drunk, or like, you're so beautiful, or like, what are you doing? What are you up to? I bet you looked really good in the outfit you were wearing today. Oh, your makeup was so pretty today when I saw you. Just like creeping. And he also, I forgot to mention, he asked me when one of the school breaks were, and I was like, oh, I don't know, I'll get back to you, but I didn't want to work so much. Like, I didn't want to work extra during that break. I wanted to just take a break from school, work the same amount of hours at work, and just enjoy my off time in between. But he went to my school website, found out when the break would be, and scheduled me to work a bunch of hours all with him. And he's like, I scheduled us, so I scheduled the two of us. We're gonna work together these shifts. Oh, okay, great. Like, I ignored the aspect of working together, and I was like, awesome, more money. I've been really saving up. It'll be great to put towards my future horse that I want to buy, because that's the whole reason I had the job, is because I wanted to buy a horse, because I'm cool. He's like, you need to go to prom with him, and I was like, no, darn, sorry, and no age limit. Like, he was like listening in the corner, and he was like bummed out about it a little bit, but then he like kept texting me about like, so what color tie should I get for prom with you? And I'm like, there's an age limit. We're not going together. I wouldn't go with you even if you were my age. Like, I'm not, like, completely not interested. This is so inappropriate for you being my boss, first of all. Second of all, like, you're 24 and I'm 18. Like, I know some people do that and there's nothing wrong with that, but personally I don't see, like, if you're 24, what's wrong with you that other 24-year-olds don't want to date you? You have to go for younger girls who are inexperienced and don't know what they're doing and don't know any better. You know what I mean? I flat out told him, I was like, I want you to stop texting me. I want you to stop talking to me. Like, I don't care about my job at this point. Like, you're creeping me out. You're texting me every single morning about how drunk you are and how cute I looked and everything. He never flat out said, hey, I like you, but it was painfully obvious. And he was like talking to everybody else about like, oh, we're gonna go to prom together. She said yes, and like everything like that. And I was like, we're not going to prom together. I'm going with my best friend. I'm sorry to be such a letdown, but I'm not interested at all. And he was like super bummed out. Like, he wouldn't talk to me at all. He ignored me whenever I was there. Like, I tried to ask him a question like, hey, this customer wants this, what do I do? And he'd just be like, go ask whoever else, like ask someone else. And he was obviously like super hurt about it and like super heartbroken about it, which I don't understand, because I mean, I can understand that you really want something to happen and it doesn't, and it's heartbreaking, but like, he was acting like we had broken up. He was so heartbroken, he couldn't even stand to look at me, and he stopped working with me. He scheduled me less hours. He would work out with my sister all the time. And I forgot to mention before, he would like keep her super late. Like, we closed at 10, I believe, at the time, 10 or 11, and he'd like keep her there till midnight, like, oh no, you need to help me clean the store because you're the closing cook, when really the closing cook only had to make the last few pizzas, flip all the food in the line so it's fresh for the next day, and then like leave. But he'd like keep her, and she felt super uncomfortable because they were the only two in the store. And he tried to make me a cook too. He tried to make me a cook, and he tried to make me a driver, so then he could schedule me more often with him, because there were only certain hours I could work, because we had other people who would work front register anyway, so like they didn't need me, but he wanted to work with me more. So he's like, oh, you could be a cook, and then we can have those people working front counter, and you can be in the back cooking, and we can like close together. And I don't remember what officially happened, but like his whole family, in the end, he and his mom were both stealing money from the company, like hardcore, like stealing thousands and thousands of dollars a night and like blaming it on other people. But they eventually were like fired. But I haven't seen or heard from this guy ever since, but sometimes he'll pop up on my Facebook like, people you might know. It was over with. But I never heard or saw of him again, and that was that. And he just really wanted things to happen, and he was just didn't shower, gross. He wasn't kept, and he was a liar and just desperate for attention. And if the story was true and he did do drugs, I'm not gonna date a cocaine addict. Hard pass, thank you. That's all I can really think of. Yeah, but that's that. So that was the story of my creepy boss and how that came to be. I've never heard from him since, and I will never hear from him again, and I'm glad he's gone. And that was that. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.